All right, so sorry, I got like a mess going on over here. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys for 2026. Yes, I'm super excited. I'm going to talk a little bit about goal setting and just kind of, and I want you to just kind of think. Like today's just kind of all about like thinking, right? Thinking, asking yourself all the big questions, big and small questions, all right? And just to get you start thinking about what is it that you want in this new year, right? Out of your business, out of your life, out of all of it. Like, what does it look like for you? Because that's one of the best things, and one of the things I love most about Tupperware and the business all these years, right? Is that it is a business, right? But it just kind of like flows in and out of our life, of our personal life, of our families, and all of that. And it's very intertwined, right? And so when it comes to setting goals and when it comes to doing things like that, it really works together. And so that's why it's so important when you're asking yourselves these questions when it comes to goals that you are, that you're including some of those thoughts about like, what does it look like for your household, for your family, for all of that? That's an important part of your goal setting for your business. Okay. So this year I kind of approached it in a different way. I've always been very methodical about the way that I approach my goals and my goal setting and my little reset that I always do at the end of the year. And this year is a little bit different. It was a different holiday for us, for a lot of different reasons that we don't need to get into. But it was a different holiday for us, and so it involved just kind of looking at things from a different perspective. And so what I did was I kind of looked at it from do, have, be, and live. Okay. So those are the four words that we're going with, right? So do, have, be, and live. So what the questions are that I want you to kind of ask yourself, and then I'm gonna ask you some clarifying questions around this. So have your pen and paper ready, or if you're using the notes on your phone or whatever, have that ready, right? So that you can just kind of jot these things down, so that you can then later on tonight, maybe with a cup of tea or your favorite nighttime beverage, be thinking about these things, when you have like some quiet time, or maybe it's in the morning for you, right? So you can be thinking about these things. So the first is like, what do you want to do? Right? So what is it that you want to do? Whether it's for you, for your family, for your household, for your business, like what is it you want to do in 2026? What are some things that will make 2026 look successful to you? Right? So maybe it's starting to be, starting an exercise practice for yourself, and you're like, I'm going to try to move my body 3 times a week intentionally, right? Of course, we're moving more than that, but intentionally, like I'm going to intentionally take a walk 3 times a week, or work out. Maybe it's something even more like work with a coach or something like that, right? But think about things like that. What do you want to do? And maybe that's where you can tie in some of your work stuff too. Like, what do you want to do in your business, right? You're like, I want to focus on my personal business this year, or I want to, maybe that's what you've been focusing on. You're like, this year, I really want to like, I want to recruit. I've never recruited before. Or I got away from recruiting. I want to get back to it. So maybe that falls into that do category, right? So the have category, right? What do you want to have? Right? That's where you can put down material things, and don't be afraid to put down some bigger goals there, right? And maybe it's a monetary thing. You're like, maybe you want to have X amount of dollars in your savings account by the end of the year, right? And that's okay. That's a wonderful goal to have, right? And to set that goal for yourself. And so maybe it's a repair. Maybe it's a repair to your house, a car. Maybe it's an additional car. Maybe it's something like that, right? So what is it that you want to have? And again, it doesn't have to be material things. It could be maybe you want to have peace of mind, right? Maybe you want to have a bigger team. Maybe you want to have a team. You've never had a team before. Maybe you want to step into leadership, and that's part of your have category, right? All right. So what do you want to be, right? What do you want to be? All right. What maybe, one of the things in my B category is I want to be someone who inspires others, right? And I think, yes, definitely some days I feel like I definitely embody that, but I feel like I feel like that's something that I could definitely sharpen that saw a little bit more this year, right? And so that's something that's in that category for me, you know? And so what is it that you want to be? Maybe you want to be somebody who is somebody that people turn to, right? Be somebody who is that steady Eddie person for somebody, that really reliable, consistent person for somebody. Is that somebody that you want to be, who you want to embody in this year, right? And maybe you want to be a leader. That goes back to, again, your business. What is it that you want to be? Maybe you want to be a better spouse. Maybe you want to be a better friend, right? Maybe you want to be better to yourself, right? Maybe you want to have some more self-love this year, right? That's okay, right? That's okay to put things like that in your goals. It doesn't, that's what, like I said, that's the beauty about this business. It's very intertwined with our business and our personal and all that, because if we're not okay, our business is not going to be okay. If it is okay, it's kind of a fluke and it's not enjoyable for us if we're not okay, right? So we have to have all of that stuff kind of together, right? So the last category is live, and you can put that in where you want to live, how you want to live, how you want your life to be. So that category can kind of go a lot of different ways, right? So maybe like moving somewhere is in your goals, right? You don't like where you live, or you're wanting to upgrade, or you're wanting to downsize or something like that, right? In that category, we want to live right where we are, right? But we definitely need to make some home improvements this year. So that is something that is in our have list, right? We need a new roof. We need some other things, right? So, but in the live category, I want to be I want to live my life knowing that everything's going to work out, right? So I want to live my life with less stress, worrying about the future, so I can just really just embody the now, right? And so you can kind of think about what it is what that looks like for you. So those are the four main categories, but I actually added a fifth, and the fifth was, what am I leaving behind? Right? What am I leaving behind in 2025? Right? What am I leaving back in 2025? That I don't want to take into 2026, right? And so maybe that is, for me, I want to leave behind so much worry, right? And I felt, towards the end of the year, I was really leaving that behind. It felt so liberating to leave some of that behind and just trust that things are working out, right? And just to keep like working my business and just living my life knowing that I'm doing all the things that I can do in my control and release the rest of it, right? And so, self-doubt, right? And something that I'm leaving behind in 2025, guys, is I'm leaving behind doing it all, okay? Because I told my family, I'm like, listen, my days of being Cinderella of this house are over, all right? This is a team effort. I'm not sure when that stopped happening, but it stopped happening last year, and it's not out. That's done. We're done here. We are done, okay? So we're having a family meeting about this, and I've been making checklists, okay? So, but think about it, guys. Like, what is it something that's been, weighing you down a little bit? It's something that you want to leave in 2025 that you don't want to carry through into this year, right? This is a perfect time to be thinking about those things. All right, so I have a couple more questions for you to help you kind of think this through, right? So one of the questions is, so what is it that you really want to achieve? What is it you want to achieve in this year, and why does that matter to you? And I think that actually might be more of an important question than what you want to achieve, is why does it matter to you? Yeah, okay. So maybe your goal in the business is to provide consistent income every month coming into your household budget, right? That's a great goal. That's a fantastic goal. Even if it's $200 a month, $200 a month could be an insurance payment. It could be a car payment. It could be so many things. That could be going towards a food budget, right? $200 a month is $200 a month, guys. That's fantastic. That's a great goal, right? But why? Why is that important to you? You know, I definitely over all these years, I can think of I can't even tell you how many people I can think of that I could say with confidence that why does it matter to them to bring in that $200 is to prove to somebody else in the household that what they're doing in Tupperware matters. And that stinks. That stinks that is actually their reason why it matters to them is to prove to somebody else that what they're doing and the time that they're taking actually is making a difference and it matters to them. But if that's where you're at, that's where you're at. And that's a great goal. It's a great goal. There's no shame in that, whatever it is. And that was something that Pam taught me in the very first real conversation that we had about Tupperware. Because when she asked me what my goal was, I said to her, I said, well, I'll tell you my goal, but you're not going to like it. And she's like, she kind of looked at me like, why wouldn't I like your goal, right? And she's like, because she's like, what's your big goal, right? And I was just like, I just really want to be able to, like, I want to be able to pay all of my bills in 1 month. I want to be able to, I want to be able to make enough money so that we can pay all the bills, like that I can pay all of the bills, and we can start paying down bills, and we can do things like that. She's like, that's a fantastic goal. Why wouldn't I think that was a good goal? And I said, because every time when I've been in direct sales, because I was in direct sales before Tupperware, I'm like, when I was in direct sales, every time they asked me for my goal and I said that was my goal, they say, no, 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 I mean your big goal. Like, a dream vacation, or, a second home, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, girl, I'm trying to keep my lights on. I cannot think about a dream freaking vacation when I'm worried about the roof of my head. Like, but they just dismissed what my real goal was. And so I would just feed them a line. I was like, well, I would love to have, a house on a lake. And they're like, what a great goal. And I'm just like, that is so far like out of the realm of possibility right now. Like, that is not going to get me out of bed because I can't put food on the table. You know what I mean? So, guys, don't ever discount whatever that goal is for you. So it's really important to realize, like, yes, what is it that you really want to achieve? But more importantly, why does it matter to you? Because that is so unbelievably important. And it doesn't matter if why it matters to you doesn't matter to anybody else, because all that matters is that it matters to you. And if that drives you and that's going to cause you to take action on a day when you feel like hot garbage, that freaking that matters. Okay, guys, it matters. All right. So the another question I want you to ask yourself is, how will reaching this goal make your life or business better? Right? And maybe the answer to that is just it's going to give you the confidence that you do actually know what you're doing, right? And that might be enough. And maybe it's going to make it better because you're going to be making more money, and that's what you need right now, right? Or maybe it's going to make it better because there's so many different reason answers to that question, guys. But that's what I want you to think about, are those couple questions. And but also I want to take this into action once you kind of sit down and you go through these couple questions I gave you guys. It's not a lot, but it's going to take you a couple minutes, okay? But once you kind of go through that, then I want you to think about what is one small step you can take this week to move you closer to that goal, right? And so, and that's a really important question, right? What is one small step that you can take to get you closer to that goal? And then also asking, what are some resources or habits, or support that you need to succeed, right? And maybe some of those habits are habits that you need to break, so maybe if you took 20 extra minutes at the end of the day to do some intentional steps in your business, that might be all it takes. So 20 minutes not scrolling, or 20 minutes not watching Netflix to be able to work on your business, that might be all the new habit that you need to create to be able to get some traction in your business. How cool would that be? I mean, that's not really hard. You can set a timer and you could do that, so those are just kind of some of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys here today, that I wanted you to just really be thinking about, what does 2026 look like for you? Right? And sit down with, like I said, your favorite beverage tonight in the morning, whatever your brain works the best. And just really think about it and dream, like sit in your favorite comfy place, wherever that is, and just, think about what it looks like, and then share with somebody that's important to you, whether it's somebody in your household or your upline or your sideline, right? Or Pam or all of us, right? You can even share right there on Champion. We'd love to hear it. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about today. And I hope it helps. And I'm super excited to be with you guys here in 2026. Happy New Year, everybody.